So if those of you don't know Photo Wings, it's just an amazing group that helps promote and really educate and spread photography to the majority world, to the whole planet, free and accessible to all. So so thanks for being here. And again, I wish I could see everyone. You know, I talked to Gianna. Behind that VII Academy logo is really the backbone of VII. It's Gianna in New York, New Jersey. So she may pop in, and I did ask if we could bring some of you in on video so I can see you, so I'm not just feeling like I'm sitting here alone talking to myself. So there's a lot of, I want to also mention that I'm open to all questions. So the premise of this was to, what's in this bag? But I would love to open it up to everything and anything that you want to talk about, because I'm a bit of a minimalist. There are assignments that can be very involving, and actually, how can I share screens? Oh, here's the screen button. Hold on, I'm going to share a screen. Oh, you can see my screen here. Hold on. So here is an example of an extreme kit that I had to bring. I bring this on a few assignments. It varies all the time. But this was part one of the National Geographic Out of Eden walk through all of northern Ethiopia and Djibouti. And this is extreme. I don't really like preparing this kind of a kit, but it was needed because I had to, rightfully so, house and feed and support not only me, but you know, an amazing dear friend. We call them fixer translators, but to me they're family. Jonas from Ethiopia, and a driver. And I treat everyone as equal. So everyone, you know, I made sure that we had tents for everyone, sleeping bags for everyone, chairs. These little gray things were little collapsible chairs, because we were going to be in the desert for a month. More than a month, with no access to water or anything like that. We had to carry everything with us. So from medical bags, this green blobby thing here by the orange duffel bag was nothing but, you know, vital medicines, even EpiPens and things like that. And I still have, oh, my dog Elfrida's pulling on the power cable. Bear with me. And I still have my walking shoes. I still use those. Coffee maker. So anyway, so that's an extreme example of the amount of kit. Also, you know, working in the field, creating like a little office space on top of my think tank roller. I think this is also in Ethiopia. That's Ali Mele, dear friend, who actually passed. But he was trying to choose the music to listen to on this little speaker in the dirt. Oh, Elfie, sorry, I've got this crazy big beautiful dog named Elfrida who's climbing all over the place to my right. I'm sure she'll pop up and climb on top of me soon. So, but really the main kit that I carry, how do I undo this screen sharing thing? Oh, Elfie, you goofball. How do I unscreen share? Oh, stop screen sharing. Duh, it says it right up there. But really the main kit, hold on, Elfie is destroying everything. Elfie, please, my big love. Elfie, big love. She's clamoring on the power cable. Hold on. All right, this is what happens when you have a very large polar bear of a child in your house. Hold on. I just don't want the power to go out. All right. So there we go. So in reality, this is what I carry. On 95% of assignments with National Geographic, everything is in this little bag, and I carry one camera out. And when I'm traveling in an airplane, I should preface this a little bit. I do use this. This is not about like gear. I'm not a gearhead at all, but I do use the this backpack. I also have a roller, but I seem to lately like a backpack because it's a little more lower profile in carry-on luggage, because I carry almost everything on the plane with me, including my clothes. Maybe I'll check that in, but my main, all of this, which isn't that much, and I'll show you, fits into here. This thing crumples up, fits into here. And then when I get to wherever I'm going, it comes out of here and into this. And actually, I brought this down too. This thing, I'm a sucker for Kickstarter campaigns. This is an amazing, beautiful bag called Soul Guard, SOLGAARD. And what I love about this is I can bring with me a month or two of clothing, and it has this amazing like clothing rack thing that accordions out of here. And in reality, on an assignment, and it's a hard case, and it's also again carry-onable, but it's all about underwear. It's all about underwear. So I'll bring maybe 2 pairs of pants, 3 or 4 shirts, but I'll bring 10 pairs of underwear and 10 pairs of socks, and it all fits in there. And again, it's all able to carry on a plane. So, and then I'll sometimes have a backpack with me to put my computer, hard drives, and things like that. But the main kit is this. And if I'm on the streets, it's this bag, and then this one camera on my shoulder. And then we wanted to know what's inside the bag. So this bag is a Think Tank Retrospective 5. I've been using this for about 10 years. It's got holes in it from a dog chewing on it. It's got paint from a bench in Armenia. And it holds really everything that I need. It's COVID days, so I bring along a mask. I see your question, so put them in the Q&A. COVID days. I also carry with me for my glasses, but also my lenses, lens cleaner, and a special kind of, I don't know, what do you call these things? Special, there's a name for it, microfiber something or another. But this one's kind of fuzzy and chewy and really nice. Another Kickstarter another Kickstarter. Oh, and I remember why I like this, because it's made from coconuts. It's not, there's no synthetics, no plastics or anything. And then I bring a power brick from my iPhone. I carry 2 iPhones with me all the time. And I only have one here right now. The other's in the other room. But I do a lot of Instagram stories. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I do a lot of Instagram stories. I love it. I just love to create and tell stories, and I'll do it here in the house with windows, with the moon, with through the glass. There's just always a story. And this camera, in all kindness to the other camera, I probably use more than anything else. So I have 2 of these to do 2 camera Instagram stories when I'm working with somebody. Batteries. I bring, this is a little battery pouchy thing with 4 batteries in here, and then batteries in each camera. So that's 6 batteries. I can go 3 or 4 days without changing batteries or charging batteries. More COVID day things. Oh, hand sanitizer. And more little bits. So the main kit is really only 3 lenses and 1 camera, even though I have 2 cameras. So the main, and it varies between bodies, because I'll explain. Um, so this is a, what is this? This is a Canon 5D Mark IV. I don't know anything about megapixels, so don't get technical on me. If you were following some of the Instagram stories that I was doing a couple weeks ago, Canon and Sony kindly sent me their latest mirrorless cameras. And I was playing in this sort of like bajillion ISO realm that I wish to be able to always work in, very, very low light. So I am probably going to upgrade to the Canon, or upgrade or shift over, or whatever it is, to the mirrorless. But I'm still really, really happy with these. They're just soup spoons. I should have brought a soup spoon. It's in the kitchen. But so this camera for 35 millimeter with a, oh, ironically, a 35 millimeter lens. It's a 35-1.4, and it's probably my main lens that I use. I do like fixed lenses. I do have all of the, 16 to 35s and 24 to 70s and whatnot, but I don't use them. In fact, if you want to buy them, I'm probably going to flip them because I just don't use them. I do use the 24 to 70, but I like the f4 because it has an image stabilizer in it, and I use that for filmmaking. But otherwise, it's these fixed lenses. The 24-1.4 is also just a lovely. It's a little bit verging on wide to me, but not evil wide or anything. And a 50-1.2. Love this lens for portraiture. And then I carry a second body, and this one's probably my favorite of all favorite soup spoons. It's an older camera, not super old, but it's a Canon 5DS. And the reason why I love this is I have it set for 6x6 or square format. And I know that it's the square format one because my dear friend Ankita in India gave me one of the beadies that you put between on your forehead in India. And so I have a beady on the top of my camera. So I know if I have them both out, which I don't often do, I don't look like to be a sort of an over decorated Christmas tree, so to speak. You never blend in anywhere you go, whether I'm walking around the streets here in the Berkshires, or I'm in India or Russia or Brazil. But I don't need to be like, I got a ton of cameras with me, because I'm not like going, if I'm in a fast news event, yes, I'll have both cameras out. But otherwise it's just one. But I probably use this whatever it is again, the 5DS, the most, because I love the square format. Now, the neat thing also about the new mirrorless cameras is it does the 6x6 thing too. I can't remember if the 5D Mark IV has it, but this one has such high amount of whatever they're called, megapixels. It has a different feel to it. It's slower. It's like really, really big, the files. And I use really fast SD cards. Oh, they're in the other room. The studio's in the other room over here. But I use the 524 megabyte SD cards, but super fast reading. And the neat thing with those is I can go a whole 1 month assignment or more just on one card. And I know people be like, oh, aren't you panicked that if the card gets corrupted or whatever. Well, I download every day, or I try to, and I split them on 2 different hard drives. So there's basically 3 backups everywhere I go, the cards and the camera, and then 2 separate, just simple Western Digital 2 terabyte hard drives. And so if the card goes kaflooey, well, I still got them backed up. And so in many ways, it's sort of interesting that these little cards that we use now are becoming so reasonably priced that I'm even thinking on every long assignment that I just buy 2 cards, right, for both cameras, and I label them at the end of the assignment, what it is, and there becomes a solid state you know, on the chip card or whatever they're called, the SIM card, not SIM card that's in a phone, but the SD card. So there's like one super stable. Then I have two, you know, backups on portable hard drives, and then in the studio over there, I have a 120 some terabyte RAID. So there's four sets of the images. So I'm thinking about doing that using the SD cards as sort of like a ultimate unbelievable backup that's super teeny tiny. So this is really the kit. It's not much. I think what else I have in here. I carry a Good Luck walnut from Armenia, from a beautiful garden in Armenia, and another chamois thing that I got from the Nat Geo Storytellers Summit a couple of years ago. It's thinner than this one, but this one is really gentle for the lenses. I do carry with me, I do a lot of field recordings, as I think you've been seeing on my Instagram posts lately from Bali. And I can't find the microphone. Elfrida seems to have taken it, but so I have to show you. I can't show you, but it clips onto the bottom of the iPhone in the lightning connector, and it's just incredible. It turns your iPhone using an app called the Hindenburg app. It's called like the Zeppelin that blew up. It's called Hindenburg. It's a very high-end audio app that works in your iPhone that turns your iPhone into a pretty full-blown field recorder. I have others. I have Zooms. I have Fostex, but I've really brought my kit down so that it all fits in this simple bag. My passports will fit in here, although I don't carry my passports with me everywhere. I think I've been robbed once. No, I don't think I ever have been. But I'll leave my identification. I may bring one. I have two. One, they're both U.S. passports, but one I use primarily with journalist visas. The other one I use as a tourist visa. But I may bring one with me. I'll have my wallet with me that has a driver's license in it and things like that. But I'll leave it in the hotel, or I'll leave it in another part of the car. I just don't want like everything in here. I do sometimes bring with me, and it'll be in the car, not always on me, another beautiful lens. It looks really big, but it's this lens shade. It's the 85-1.2. Now, you may think, oh, portraits, but I think it's too, for me, it's too much for portraits, meaning it blurs out the background too much. I love it for landscapes. It sounds really totally cuckoo to do landscapes with a, not really like a telephoto-y lens, but not like mountain landscapes and stuff like that, because then you want to have like, all sorts of crazy stuff going on. I'm meaning like landscapes even here in the yard, or sort of anywhere. It's a really interesting lens for landscapes. But if I bring it with me, it will stay in the car. It doesn't sit on my shoulder because it's just more kit than I want to bring. So this is really the kit. I wish I could turn the camera up a little bit more. Here, I'll just do it this way. So this is really the kit. It's really dark in here, so I had to bring this lamp over. So it's this 5DS, which will inevitably usually be on my shoulder, swapping back and forth between the other camera, the 50-1.2, and then I have this little Paddy buddy over here, and the 24-1.4, and passports, the battery brick, the walnut. Hello, Elfie, how are you? Hand sanitizers, COVID, power brick for the iPhone. You can get about 4 or 5 charges with this. The lens and eyeglass schmutzy thing, the schmutzy cloth. Oh, I will bring AirPods with me for phone or listening to music. That'll fit in here. My COVID mask, and it all closes in, and business cards are here, and it all closes voila, like this, and this. And that's kind of it. I mean, battery charger buddies, um, they'll sit in the hotel or in the car. I will bring things like power inverters if I know I'm going to be in a place with limited access to power, so I can get power off the car. Um, and again, that's sort of like when the kit gets bigger or more than I really care for it to be that big. But it's not stuff that I carry with me, and I'm really sort of like the anti-gear, definitely the anti-tech. I know how to function in a comfortable way for me, because, and you need to find yours, right? It's not like what I do is going to work for everyone, or what you do may work for me. And I would love to, learn more about what is your ultimate minimalist kit. And when I do go into the Canon mirrorless system, everything's probably going to get a little bit smaller, at least the camera bodies, although the whatever it was called, I think it's called the R5 or whatever it is that they sent me. Um, it's it's probably almost the size of this. I mean, it's a little bit tinier. Well, it is tinier. I'm just trying to think. Yeah. And it's a little bit lighter, but it's not like featherweight lighter. Um, but I don't find this to be a burden. I just sort of accept it for what it is. And then, of course, I use this camera that orders pizza and has a map and everything else in it and makes some phone calls. I use this a lot. Again, I use two of these, and I will mention that I'm not paid by Apple or anything, but they do send me on loan every year 2 iPhones. I've had a relationship with Apple for years, and they want me to be able to use this in no payment. I'm not telling you this to like promote it or anything like that. But you're probably wondering, well, why do you have 2 iPhones? Well, it does get expensive. I would definitely buy one, at least one, but 2 is really interesting to do. To do these sort of double camera Instagram stories, or just even films in general, vertical or horizontal, where you can put things together later from double camera perspectives. So this is really sort of the, I was looking, I keep getting a notification that my iCloud is full, and I'm even paying the 2 terabyte of cloud space. And then I looked in the phone, in the albums, and I think I have almost 250,000 photographs and videos in this thing that I can make phone calls with. I use it so much. So I'm a pretty boring kit camera person. This is it. And I can go for months. I mean, I've gone 2 months or more with just this. Again, it's batteries, 2 of these little chargers I keep in my sort of bag. And then the main thing that you need is underwear and socks. You can wear pants, multiple days over, unless you spill pizza all over it or something like that. And shirts, you can wear them for a couple of days until they get maybe too stinky or whatever. And that's why there's a thing called washing machines. I'll wash my clothes in bathtubs and sinks if there's no access to anything else. But otherwise, it's almost everything can be carried on the plane. And I bring as a laptop, which I'm talking to you on, a 13-inch MacBook, whatever it is. It's like a year old or 2 years old. And that's about it. So I'm going to open up to questions here. And really feel free to take this beyond the what's in the bag. Okay, so here we go. I'm going with the first one down here by Rafael Vilela. John, do you use iPhones for pro photos during assignments? If so, do you use RAW, and which app? Okay, good question. I've tried the RAW. Do I use the iPhone? for pro photos. Okay, what is in love and absolute love and kindness, Raphael? What is a pro photo? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? So words mean something. So let's try not to like come up with a terminology that, well, because this is a allegedly known camera, or what I right now repeatedly want to remind everyone is just a soup spoon. I am going to go to the kitchen and get a soup spoon. If there's another question about that, I may bring up the soup spoon. But we allegedly think that this is the thingamajig, right? This I had the first. Oh, I should have brought it. I don't have it here. I have it at another location. I had the first cover, the first iPhone cover of National Geographic, and I think 2017. No, before that, 2015, and it was an iPhone 5. So, you know, the notion of this not being a camera, and a powerful camera, or a pro making camera, whatever it is, pro cooking soup spoon for soup. I think we're just mumbo jumboing words. So yes, I use this for everything. Magazines like National Geographic, we will publish, cameras, pictures that are made on this type of a camera. There is still at this point a little more depth and sort of dimension with this camera, but my guess, somebody's raising their hands. Gianna, what do I do when somebody raises their hands? Oh well, I don't know.
You can, if you want to promote them so they can talk, you can do that. Otherwise, you can.
Okay, let's do that. Let me just finish quickly Raphael's question. So, and do I do it in RAW? I tried it in RAW, and I was talking to some people at Apple. Why does it look so muddy and mushy? And I know that's of course the case with the RAW here. There was something, I can't remember all the details, but something about in Lightroom, some maybe compatibility thing, or I don't know what it is. At this point, I wasn't so like into the raw file that this camera makes. So I'm doing still everything. I switched it to JPEG, and I use Lightroom iOS on this, which then I have as the other version of Lightroom on my laptop. So everything magically whooshies together. And I think the end results are beautiful. I've had so many kind people on Instagram have reached out wanting prints over the years, many of them made with this camera right here. And I have a 60-inch printer in the other room here. And I've done 40-inch prints off of an iPhone 8 before. So, in all, again, love to your question, Raphael, and anybody's question, it's not the tool, it's the love that we give to it. So, boom. I hope that answered your question. Do we want to bring somebody in, Janet, so I don't feel like I'm just talking to this on the painting over here?
Let's allow Fernando to talk. There we go.
Hey, Fernando. Can we see you, Fernando? I think Fernando's getting coffee.
All right, let's try. Okay, hold on here. Okay, William.
William, hey, you got some cool sunglasses there. Is William getting coffee?
Hello, John.
Hey, William, how are you?
John, it's Bill here.
Nice to meet you, Bill.
We met at the Frontline Club.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, that was not too long ago, a bit of a time ago, but not a million years ago. Are you there? Did Bill go to the Frontline Club?
Let's see. He may have. Looks like he just muted. Okay, so let's.
Okay. Nice to see you again, or hear your voice again. Oh, you do have a question. Do you ever have the need for compact cameras? Sure, right here.
That's what you use, yeah.
Yeah, and I have, when I borrowed from Nat Geo this some Ricoh, I can't remember what it is, but
Rico, yeah.
yeah, but Tim O'Brien, in the photo engineering genius at National Geographic, we were anticipating possible madness taking place during the inauguration. It didn't, thankfully, and he gave me this Ricoh something or another that apparently is great everything or whatever in a compact camera, but I didn't really use it, to be honest. And I use this gazillion times more. Even then, I used it more than I use this. So yeah, it's. I don't want to say that the camera makers are finished. They're going to be around for probably all the history to come. It's just, this is, for whatever reason, right or wrong, good or bad, I don't really care. Something that is just so ubiquitous, again, you hear this all the time, in our pockets. And as I think I mentioned just a little bit ago, I've made 40-inch prints off of a much older camera that makes phone calls. And other than a certain dimensional feeling to it, you almost can't tell the difference. We're just not at the point of really complex light. The iPhone 12 Max sees in this like pretty amazing darkness, but it's not. We're still probably about 3 or 4 years from where the lines of these two things, at this point, kind of blur.
John, are you likely to come back to London to the Frontline Club sometime in the near future?
I would love to, if I could just get on any plane out of the country. I'm stuck here on still. I've done some work domestically for a story that I began for the magazine a while ago, but everything else is overseas, and COVID's raging in India again, and I'm supposed to be in India, and I could go to Russia, but to do surgical one trips back and forth long hauls, I prefer to do them on a continuous moving flight plan. And so I'm just in a waiting game of being able to continue on a story that I began the end of 2019, a few months before COVID came along. So I would love to get back to London and have a pint with you at the Frontline Club. But at this point, I don't even think I can go to London unless I have family or a business, like a meaningful business.
Your talk always at that Frontline Club event had a huge impact on me.
Oh, huge. You're too kind. You're too kind. Thank
really
you.
Huge. Thank you. Great to see you again, John.
Great to see you. Thank you for being here. Do we have somebody else we can humanize? Oh my gosh, there's 23 questions. Janet, can we go longer than just an hour, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go a bit longer.
Okay. I have no idea how long we're at this year.
We are at 10:38 right now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Who's coming in next?
I don't see anybody else with their hands up, so maybe you want to go through the Q&A a little bit more?
Okay. All right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, there's so many questions, and they seem to come in different orders all the time. So I'm just going to start from the bottom. Jana, where's the latest and where's the oldest? Oh, I guess it's at the tippy top. The
top is in the oldest, yeah, and the bottom is the newest ones.
I got it. So this is Ellen Cook. Elfie wonders who you're talking to. Yes, my dog does the same. Yeah, Elf is, Frida is just, otherworldly. She's unconditional love, but she is about the size of a bear now. She's only a little bit over a year old. Frida, what are you doing? Oh, and she just runs around the house and goofs off. But yeah, she's just love. Next one, Clinton. What is your average length in the field for this kit? Clinton, I can go in perpetuity with this. I don't need more than what's in this bag. I have things like drones. There's a drone in the other room. I have 360 cameras. Oh my gosh, if I really wanted to like bring out the whole studio thing, a lot of it's in the basement still, because I just moved into this house just over a year ago and haven't even remotely done anything in this place, let alone unpacked. But yeah, I have lots and lots of camera gear, not because I'm into the gear, but over the years you needed something. I have like 100mm macro that I just found the other day that I totally forgot I had. I think I've used once, but I was thankful that I had it for that one need. But I don't bring all this stuff with me. I'm just not a gear person. Printers in the other room, but yeah, I can go forever with just this, and be completely content. Hold on, this thingy just moved again. Okay. How do I know if I've answered the question? Suddenly now Paul Marotti jumped to the top.
I'm just saying them as you answer, I'll mark them off.
Oh, you're too kind. Okay, thank you. Paul Marotta, the one thing that badly derailed me in, I guess that's Kathmandu 1 year, or Kdu, yeah, Kathmandu 1 year, was a gastrointestinal major bad water incidents. What do you do? You had parasitic typhoid. I've had that countless times. Oh my gosh. So Paul, yeah, it's they call it gastroenteritis. It's another one, but it literally is a parasite that gets in our bodies. Here's our problem that I discovered over the years. In this minority world that a lot of us live in, where everything is squeaky clean and the water's all purified and everything has to be cooked a certain temperature, or paranoia sets in and everybody sues everybody if you get the slightest bit of diarrhea. Our problem in humanity, and it's not really a problem, it's probably a good thing, but it's not universally realistic. Our bodies have no longer gotten used to bacteria. All this antibacterial hand soap and dish soap, like, give me bacteria. I want bacteria. So years ago, I would get this parasitic typhoid or gastroenteritis from water. I remember one time it was popsicles. It was in Indonesia, the massive revolution was going on, and somebody was walking around during a revolution selling popsicle, cold popsicles, yeah. And I'm like, oh man, it's so hot. I just want to have that. And of course, I didn't pay attention that the water may not have been very, very clean that made the popsicle. And I was, yeah, on the toilet in every means possible, a volcano, and had to go see a doctor. I've had deli belly, which is what it's sort of cheekily called in India. And what I ended up doing, Paul, is I eat street food. And this is not medical advice, or nothing I say here can be please held against me. This is just what I've done, and I don't get sick anymore, is that I have had, and probably still have in me, every parasite known to humanity. It actually is sort of funny. When I lived in Indonesia, you used to be able to get deworming pills right over the counter. And Alfie, no. And when I moved back to the US not that long ago, I came back from a trip and I asked my doctor, can I get deworming pills? And they looked at me like, what are you talking about? Because we've gotten also squeaky clean, at least here and in other places around the world. So I try to get some of the parasites out of me. So Paul, there's no real cure of it other than you belly up, under blankets and be in the bathroom for endless hours, multiple times for multiple days. But I found is that I eat only now street food, just because that's the best food. And I don't get sick anymore because I have every parasite known to nature existing probably in my body, and I'm okay with that. So Alex Schmidt, John, do you prefer the low quality Canon lenses to the better L lenses? Oh, no. So I do sort of have this mantra of, these are just, hammers and nails. And I want to get a cushion to sit on. This chair is a little bit low. Give me a second here. Am I here? No, it's in the other room. Anyway, these are just, hammers and nails, soup spoons, pencils. Do you ask a writer, hey, what computer did you write your novel on? It's like irrelevant. It's what was given through that computer. But in our profession, in our art, there are some really good paintbrushes, and the paintbrushes are these, the lenses. This is kind of the paint, and then these are the paintbrushes. And doesn't really matter, the paintbrushes, in many ways. I've done a whole book with a plastic camera called a Holga, and it's even the lens is plastic. But yes, in the realm of Canon, Nikon, I don't know who else makes two different versions of lenses. But with the Canon, get the L lenses. They cost whoppingly a lot more. Excuse me. But you get what you pay for. And when you invest in a lens like an 85-1.2, it's a ghastly investment, or even the 51.2 or the 24-1.4. They're all, seemingly impossibly expensive. Just get them piece by piece. I don't just go out and buy them all at one time. I'm not independently wealthy or anything like that. Excuse me. I drank coffee funny earlier this morning, but it's the kind of thing that when you make an investment in a piece of lens like this, or a paintbrush like this, unless you drop it or break it or beat the bejeebies out of it, it's going to last you 10 plus years before Canon's going to come out with something that's, oh my gosh, even better. And in the big universe of it, I'd rather have just one amazing lens, like a 35-1.4, than having a whole bunch of other things just to have it. So yes, there is a difference. It allows you to see in much more complex light. Anonymous attendee. Oh, I want to be the anonymous attendee. Do you and NetGeo still use analog film in assignment and workflow? A few photographers do. I know Rana Effendi does everything with 120 millimeter on a Rolleiflex. Anastasia Taylor-Lynn does everything with film. I'm sure others, but my guess is you'd have to ask. I could ask, but I can't do it right now. My guess is probably about 90+% of the visuals that you see in National Geographic are created with a digital camera. But in this big, unbelievable kaleidoscope of visual communication, I just want to communicate. Film, finger painting, crayons, digital, iPhone, ketchup and mustard and smear it on a piece of paper. I don't really care. It's all about communication. Catherine Cloud. Wow, is that really your name? Cloud, that's beautiful. What's the artwork behind you? This is, so I have various paintings on the wall here. If I move them, I'm gonna get kind of bumbly. This is from an Indonesian artist named Dodi. It's a very large painting. It's probably almost 2 meters tall and 1.5 meters wide. It's about the tree of life. It's a really beautiful story that I won't trouble everyone to have to feel in. And there's another Dodi over here. because I had to put this light over here because there's not enough light in the room here. And then there's others in the back. I used to live in Indonesia and came across Dodi's work at a gallery once and just fell in love with it. And I have other Dodi's paintings, and his partner, his wife's a beautiful painter as well. I have some of her paintings over there. So I hope that, I'm glad you appreciate it. I love it too. Heidi S. Do you download pics every day, and do you reformat card and camera or leave images on the card? So Heidi, I mentioned a little bit about that in the beginning. I do try to download every day. Sometimes I'm just exhausted at the end of the day and I'm like, I don't want to do this. It's like, you know, watching paint dry. But I use these very large 520 some gig SD cards. Probably could maybe go 1 terabyte one day. They're available. They're a little pricey, but I can go on a whole month-long assignment with 2 524s or whatever the number is SD card, and technically not download. But what happens if I lose the camera? I have lost a camera before. I left a 5D Mark IV and I think a 35 millimeter lens on the back of a truck in Kazakhstan, and drove across the desert, completely forgetting it was on the back. And if you wander through the deserts of Kazakhstan, you may actually find my camera. But yeah, I do download. I try to download every day, and then I make duplicate copies on 2 Western Digital, really thin hard drives. Gosh, they're in the other room. I should have brought them over, but they're like a 2 terabyte Western Digital hard drive now, at least here in the United States, and I'm sure it's like this elsewhere. It's like $60 US, and 2 terabytes. You know, unless you're doing a lot of video, you're gonna have a hard time filling it up in a month or 2 assignment. So, hope that answers your card. And I just and then because of the big memory cards that I use, I don't erase the card. I just keep going on it. And I mean, the last assignment I was doing in Connecticut, Tennessee, and West Virginia, the number on the camera display never stopped reading 9,999. So why do I want to? What do I care? I use it as another layer of backup. So I hope that answers your question, Heidi. Maciek, do you always buy new cards for the next assignment? As I also mentioned in the beginning, I'm thinking about doing that, especially for long assignments, maybe not short ones, where because they become so reasonably priced, it's worth the investment to buy, you know, 256 or 524s or whatever the number is. Are they? Just like, I don't have it in this camera, it's in the studio, but and you know, and label them and set them aside as another layer of backup. But otherwise, no, I've never bought new SD cards for every assignment. I just erase them over time, and I have at least 2 to 3 backups at various, you know, places. One here, at another location, and in the basement, in fire safes. I have a fire safe in the basement. So I hope that answers your question. Heidi S is back again. What audio app do you like? It's called the Hindenburg, like the Zeppelin that crashed in the 14 years ago. And you can also use just the built-in iPhone audio recording app. It's called Memos, I think. It's pretty good, but it has really depth control and real special control. Also, and also to Catherine's question. So this is for both Heidi and Catherine Cloud. Brand a microphone that I can't find it because Elfrida picks things up and wanders them around the house. I really wish I have it here. It's called Shure. So how can I write? I'm going to just spell it out and everybody can write this down. SHURE. Shure. They're a well-known microphone maker forever, and they make an iPhone stereo mic that very, very small, that I wish I had it here to show you. I have two of them, again, because of the two iPhones. And you get a dead kitten with it, or a wind screen, and the Shure app with the when you can download it for free, I guess, but it automatically turns on, or you have to just you can calibrate your microphone and everything, the Shure microphone on the Shure app. And the Shure app is pretty good too, but the Hindenburg app really sort of oofs it up a bit. And unless you're an extreme audiophile, which I kind of am, I can't really hear much of a difference now using the Shure mic with the iPhone as compared to like Zooms that I have, or I also have a Audio Technica microphones. Have lots of microphones. We should do an audio event, Gianna, one day. But when you bring the audio files into programs like Pro Tools or Apple's Logic, like Lightroom for photography, you don't manipulate it. You can, of course, go berserk with it, but you can really posh the audio, and I can't really hear much of a difference. Maybe a little more depth, slight richness of with the Zoom or the Fostex, but yeah, I'm about a small kit, and there's enough little bit of post-production I can do on the audio files to make you not even notice that there's any quality loss. Yoshi, John, how do you go about getting consent from signed by? How do you get people to sign, I guess, consent forms? People you photograph, do you carry generic? So you're talking about modeling releases, Yoshi. So National Geographic in recent years, and a lot of publications, have really been wanting us to get modeling releases or release forms or consent forms. I guess they're concerned more about growing liability concerns, especially if they're really, really heavy stories. So the story that I'm working on, which I kind of can't say what I'm doing, but is all on health issues, and lots of portraits of people dealing with health issues. And I do get releases signed, and I explain to them why. And it's the releases are a bit enveloping, but I've never really had anybody. I read the release to them. I don't just say here it is, and I will bring them in multiple languages if their native language is not English. So when I go to India, I'll bring also a general, but exactly the same Hindi version. A lot of people speak English in India, but I'll bring a Hindi version. If they are speaking only another very, very local language, I'll have a translator translate it for them, or I'll read it in English if their language is English. The Geographic, a lot of publications have multi-language forms now. And by and large, you humanize it, and most people will sign. If I feel like it's really, really sensitive, and some people won't, but they'll let me photograph them still, and understanding what the story is about. And then, of course, it just limits the usage rights that the publication or I may have. But I don't sell my heavy stories to corporate companies or anything like that. And I've yet to ever have, doesn't mean I can't speak for any magazine I'm talking about, not just Geographic, but that somebody's gonna, take a picture of somebody who's, anything is open, I guess, to possibilities, but I've never ever had my work, to my knowledge, misconstrued or misrepresented, because in my captions I write a lot of sort of like legalese at the bottom, and then VII, which represents my archive, we have sort of like another buffer layer of asking the client, what are you using this for? So, but do I get people to sign? If I'm on the streets and general things, no. There is sort of this universal legal understanding of if you're in a public space, you're in a public space. It's definitely almost impossible to, completely impossible if you're in a war or revolution. Um, and I'm very watchful of the issues of compromising somebody's privacy or their integrity. I'm not here to diminish anyone. I'm here to present really the magnitude of life. So I think that answers your question. By and large, most people in a setting that you'll go to, if you explain to them and you read it to them, will understand. I haven't had anyone say no, and maybe a few people who have weren't vehemently no, they just didn't want to sign. But in editorial usage, by and large, maybe we won't use it. I actually, when I think about it, yeah, we don't use it. Yeah, and then I put in the caption, we don't use it. Yeah, okay. Jennifer Cabral. Oh no, suddenly that just shifted. Valentina Bianchi arrived on the Bianchi arrived. John, do you, when you don't have access to electricity, do you use solar solutions? I have, years ago, I tried solar solutions, not that long ago, but like 5, 6, 8 years ago. The technology really wasn't there to charge it. Now, there's been a pretty significant shift in solar charging technology, and it's only going to keep changing by genius scientists. It's all science and scientists and mathematicians and of course engineers that then have to make it all come together as a physical thing. And so we will probably have much more beautiful solar sun powered options. What I do for power is I bring an inverter, I have it in the basement. It's not very big. They're very small now. They keep shrinking. And you can put it in the lighter charger thing and charge everything up. Or I brought a very big one because I had a lot of things to charge, and that you had like little, alligator clamp things that you put on the battery of the car, and you could charge multiple laptops and cameras all at one time. But for solar, I think now it's becoming real. I just saw a company, I forget its name, but where it's a big battery power unit, like enough to charge your iPhone 100+ times. It's a pretty big box. I have it in the other room. I forget its name. And that company, like Jotun or something like that, makes a solar panel charger that will charge this very large, size of my camera bag sort of power brick in 7 hours. So, sort of the dynamics are shifting all the time. And I would imagine we're going to have really meaningful solar panel, foldable, rollable solar panel charging abilities very, very soon. Jennifer Cabral, thank you for the great insight. Do you think you will be able to completely switch to digital mirrorless cameras? Is there anything you are concerned about losing or relinquishing? No. I am the least person to be concerned about anything related to photography. Life, I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Or emotion and everything else. I'm just a person, but I don't care. I don't know what I'd relinquish for the 2 or 3 weeks that I had the Canon R5, I think it was, and the 2 weeks I had a Sony 7 something or another. I didn't feel like there was any loss of anything. There was only gain, the magical ability to see in incredible darkness was just amazing. So to me, there's no relinquishing. There's it's just a blessing, but I still love this. I just don't really care. I know it sounds terrible, but I just don't really care. I just want to create. David Walter, John, thank you for doing this. How do you manage your memory cards, backups in the field. Do you have external hard drives? Yes. Excuse me. It's all in the other room. But it's very, very small. I can't move this laptop around. I should have maybe been more prepared, huh? So can you hold on just a second? Hold on. I'm not going far. I'm right over here. I'm not far. I'm over here. I'm just over here. And I'm trying to find the little card reader. Well, I can't find it, but I'm coming back. Okay. All right. So I carry little baby Western Digital hard drives. They're 2 terabytes each. I label them what they are. One, well, these are from 2 different trips, but usually I'll call it as main, and then I'll call the other one backup. And I put a label on it with my, oh, it's all going to be backwards for you, but with my phone number and email on it in case it gets lost. And I use these, monster-sized SD cards, and I have a little whatever the new USB-C connector on the Mac is, very small card reader that I just can't find right now. It's in the other room. And then, so it's all really, really tiny. The card reader is like, a quarter the size or half the size of this thing, or maybe as long as this, but like, smaller and very low profile. Doesn't take up space at all. And so the workflow is, if I'm not exhausted, put the card in the card reader and drop it into Lightroom. And then I'll start brushing my teeth or ordering some food or lying in bed. And then once it's all imported in, I'll just, drop another copy of the just imported photographs into a second hard drive. And then that's it. And then I keep photographing. And the workflow, this is probably a whole other thing we could do also. It takes place in studio. I don't really edit in the field unless it's a pressing deadline. And that has happened. That happened during the inauguration in January, because it was the first time I had almost daily deadlines for a long time, because we were doing publishing every day on the Nat Geo website. But most assignments are very long term, and so I don't really do like heavy editing until I get home. I'll look at night, or I'll look the next day or a couple of days later, but I take a much more like detached approach to all of this, as if it was film. Like, I don't want to be up all night in my hotel room looking at pictures. I know what the day was like. I don't need to relive the day. I want to know what I can do tomorrow. And I'm excited about the next day. I may look at like, oh, did this situation in an incredibly complicated light, or something that I remembered from the day, because I never edit or look at the back of my screen of my camera. I use the back of my screen. I only rarely look at. I just use it as a light meter to make sure it's not over or underexposed. But I'm not going to edit off of a postage stamp sized back thing. I mean, it's a pretty big postage stamp, I guess, but it's still too small. And I'll look maybe at night in the hotel or in the car, just briefly, just to see what it is. Maybe do a little quickie toning to see if I'm always pushing the extremes of light, especially at night. But then that's it. I want to go to bed or read a book or do something else, and I want to get going and create the next day or later in the evening. So I don't get too bejiggly about it. So the workflow is photography onto a little tiny postage stamp. Incredible how much can go on these things. Through the computer, which is sort of the enlarger now, or the processor, into these little tiny 2 terabyte hard drives. and split them up, and two of them look at it, you know, briefly just to see if some things work, and then wait till I get in studio to really sort of immerse myself. Consider it like a wet dark room. It's just a dry dark room. You come into your space and you look at all of your negatives or film or digital files, whatever you want to call it, and then you go into it and to like live in it every day and all night long and what have you, would just sort of like occupy too much time. I want to do other things than just relive the day over and over and over. M. Plutzer, that's a beautiful name. I'll just have to call you M. Hi, John. Thanks so much for your webinar. I want to learn more about social and documentary photography. Can you advise me on online workshops, courses? You're in The Hague in Netherlands. Well, there's a lot of online events. This is, as much as I'd love to give love and share love on this, you can look at some of my past Ask Me Anything episodes on my Instagram account. It's on my IGTV. I've done 7 of those. But workshops, you know, visit the VII website. There's myself and my colleagues are doing online courses during COVID. It looks like COVID days, they're still here. It's peaking in many places. People, please wear your masks, okay? And if you have access to get vaccinated, it's a beautiful thing. Do it. It's not to be afraid of. And like mystic, you're not going to grow 2 heads or anything weird like that. I'm going to get my first vaccine, I think, any day now. It's finally opening up to everybody here in Massachusetts. But I will be, I'm sure a lot of my colleagues too, but I'm looking to be hosting physical workshops again. I can't believe it. Maybe as soon as later this year. And the reason where it gives me hope is I follow a few musicians on Instagram and on their mailing lists, and I'm getting messages that concerts are being planned for later this year, like physical get-together, you know, concerts. So using that sort of as a litmus test of they may know more than I do, because there's, you know, a whole big promoter background thing to, you know, moving an entire band around the country and around the world. I have a feeling we may start being able to have in-person events. So M. Plutzer, visit the VII website. I know I don't have any scheduled. I do one-on-one mentoring right now, and but I'm sure many of my colleagues have some online courses that they're doing. I may try to do one, but I think that the next one will be later this year. Physical gathering, where to be determined, but it may be back in Mexico, or it may be back in my hometown of Indonesia, even though I'm not Indonesian, but I lived there for so long it feels like home. So hope that helps. Pia, about the Canon R5, does it support the same ring as the Mark IV you're using? Yes, it seems to. Yeah, oh, no, you have to get this little, like, I don't have it here because I sent it back to Canon, this little adapter ring. So it does sort of make the lens like come out a little bit further. But oh, good. Yeah. Thanks, Gianna, for sharing that about the online coaching things. So Pia, the thing is I actually found, I remember talking to the Canon rep, Tony, saying that your lenses like these that are not the R lenses, they don't have a lot of R lenses yet. They have an amazing 51.2, but soon they'll be coming out like the 35-1.4 and the 24-1.4. But the accuracy of the focusing on these lenses with the R5 was so much better than on the Mark IV, even with this little ring adaptery thing. So you know, for right now, you get this little pushing out of the camera, and I didn't find it to be cumbersome at all. Paul, does a 35 lens make you feel like you stick out in a crowd? No. I mean, I stick out in a crowd no matter what. If I'm not in an area that I, live, let's say. But if it sticks out in the crowd, what are you going to do, right? We've always stuck out in the crowd with a camera. Um, uh, Bigger camera, smaller camera, whatever camera, you're going to stick out, and deal with it. It just is what it is. And I don't find it that big. I mean, the bigger part of this is the hood thingy. So I guess it does sort of, come down. But I do use these hood things just because I'm always, playing with light, and sometimes I take it off because I do like lens flare and stuff like that. But no, it's not an issue to me, Paul. Paula, John, how do you store your images when you're in the days? Okay, so I've answered that question earlier, Paula. It's about putting them on hard drives. Very easy. I don't use solid state. I guess I could, but doesn't really matter to me because there's two, and I have them in a cushiony case. And I probably have 200 or more of these little hard drives in the basement that get fed into the much bigger RAID in the other room. And I've never yet, I'm trying to think. No, I've never had a hard drive go bad in the field, but I know it happens, and maybe I've just been lucky. And the odds of both of them going bad at one time, well, lightning can strike me too, and sometimes strike you twice. It can happen. But I, knock on wood, I haven't had any problem. Georgia, two body cameras in case one breaks. Yes, it is so that in case one breaks, and that's happened to me before. But I do have a third camera over there. I will bring it often with me, but I'll never have it in my bag. It'll sit in the hotel room or in the car as the ultimate, oh my gosh, all my cameras broke. But these things are pretty made. They've broken on me before, but they're made pretty well. But I have two because, as I shared in the beginning, maybe you weren't here, this is the Canon 5DS. It's gazillion megapixels in size, something like 60, 80 megapixels, which when this came out 4 or 5 years ago was like, oh my gosh. But it's because it's amazing as square format. So I use this camera as 6x6 square format, and this one is 35 millimeter. Both of them can do 35 millimeter. It's just, there's a different feeling to it for some reason. So that's why. And I just maybe, and if everything totally breaks down, I have a backup that sits again in the room or in the car. And if it totally all obliterates or Armageddon happens, or I get everything stolen or lost, I just have to go find a way to get another camera. Everything is problem solving. 99% problem solving, 1% photography, and that's just what it is. Patrizio, do you have developed some sort of approach to blending in with other cultures? No, you'll never blend, but I can share with you something that opens the universe, no matter where you are. Humility and kindness. Be kind, be humble, understand the gift that you are being given to be in another human being's presence, whether it's your neighbor and you're in their home, whether you're allegedly on the other side of the planet. You will never blend. I remember there was a time in Afghanistan covering the war that a lot of Western journalists, males, grew beards thinking you're going to blend, because actually many Afghanis, because of Alexander the Great and other conquerors of the past, unfortunate conquerors, spread their genetics across the planet in that part of the world. And I've met people, mostly men, even women, but definitely men and women, in Afghanistan, in remote areas, it looked like they could be from Alabama or Oregon or Cincinnati. but you'll never blend. And what I learned is it isn't how you look necessarily on the outside. It's how you stand. It's how you walk. It's how you move. It's how the culture is. And I'll never be able to do that. And so you will never blend. Sorry, you won't. And that's okay. We're all just people. And but humility and kindness is the gift of giving and the gift of life and the gift of love. And then the universe opens, not always right away, but give to it, and it will be given to you. Gary, John, can you tell me your passion right now from your last assignment journey, the secret passion you have? Secret. Well, coffee. I have a passion for coffee, and it's getting a little cold. Now it's almost an iced coffee. I have a passion. Do I have a secret passion? I'm interested in everything. I'm excited about everything. I'm like a little kid. I never grew up. I can't like control the exterior of my physical presence, but I just never grew up. And I tell my kids whenever they're around me, don't grow up. You grow up, it's sort of like over with, and doesn't mean that you goofball around or anything like that. Although I do goofball around quite a bit, but it's just be intrigued and excited about everything. I'm excited every time even now, I'm looking out the windows and seeing things. And if you watch my Ask Me Anything IGTV pieces over the last few weeks, I share a lot about that sort of like the gift that we all have, and that's fascination and curiosity and questioning and wondering and what's around the turn and why am I here and what is this existence about, and all of that sort of I guess evolves into this limitlessness of endless curiosity and excitement to do things. So does it connect to my last journey or assignment? It's about life. The assignments, the journeys are all like whatever. Embrace life and embrace loving and incredibleness that is all around us all the time. And then when you're on the journey, which is all the time happening, or an assignment when you're doing them, you pull away the pragmatic and you enter into this kind of the imaginarium of limitless incredibleness that's always there. Edmund, bonjour, John from Paris. Thank you for sharing this moment with us. Do you sometimes use flashes? No, I don't use flash. I don't know if I even have any flashes. Oh, I do, but I don't know where they are. And I remember sometimes this is in the film days, I guess. I would bring flashes just in case, because you couldn't really go into abominably dark lit situations without flash. But I was pushing it all the time with I've been using these 1.4 lenses since I began doing this stuff, and I can handhold to about a half a second. And so with film you would take like 200 ectochrome or even 200 Kodachrome, and you can push it to a whopping 800 or 1,000 ISO. God, now you got like 10, 20,000 ISO. But I would bring a flash, but I'd never bring batteries. And I would torture myself to figure out a way to do the photograph without a flash because I didn't have the batteries. So it was like a self-imposed beating up of myself. Some people do flash well. I just haven't met many people who do flash amazingly well. And I'm just so intrigued by the art of reality. And if you want to use flash, do it. Just make it brilliant. Find your way of using flash. Binaural microphones, yes. You know, we need to do a whole audio event here. Jenna, we got to do audio. I have microphones for my ears. They're also in the basement because I just moved into this old home and haven't unpacked. But you know, I used to have on my old blog, until it kind of blew up somehow, all sorts of binaural recordings. I'll be sharing more recordings on my Instagram feed in these continued days where I can't easily travel. So a lot of everything that you're seeing is from the archive. But I have a lot of binaural recordings, and I use Soundman binaural microphones. Wish it was Sound Person, but it's from Germany. They're the best binaural microphones that I've found and used, and they're called Soundman. So I think if you go to soundman.de or something like that, just Google Soundman binaural microphones. They're the same microphones that Pearl Jam recorded their album Binaural on. They're incredible, three-dimensional sound, just beautiful. Stuart, hey Stuart, how are you in Malaysia? What's the story about the lucky walnut in the back? Well, that is from a garden of a very close dear friend of mine from her walnut tree in Armenia. Yasmin, hello John, hope you're fine. I attended a program, you recommended a video program. Wait a second, because this is moving. Hello John, I hope you are fine. I am fine, thank you. I attended a program, you recommended a video program you would use for iPhone. Can you say it again for editing? Yes. Oh my gosh, there's a ton of messages here. I use a couple. Oh, you can't see them here because they go backwards. All right, so I have a little video editing thingy here. So Rush, but Video Leap. My dear friend Camilla Ferrari turned me on to Video Leap, and this thing is just incredible. And it's how I do all the Ask Me Anything videos. I actually edit it and put it all in on this app. These entire hour-long almost IGTV things I've been sharing. I just like it because I can move around the house, or I can do it in the car, and because it takes all day to do the Ask Me Anything videos. The smaller pieces that I'll do on Instagram stories if I want to like tone it, or I don't really do it for Instagram stories, something really for toning to bring out, you know, shadows or highlights. But it does not do that thing called Ken Burns effects. So Video Leap, it's a funny word, video and leap. But the only one I found that has a really nice way to pan through still images is another program called Filmmaker Pro. And it looks like it's this middle one here, this one here with the little clipboard. And that does the ability to journey through a frame and move around in it. It does. You cannot do Ken Burns in Premiere Rush or Video Leap. I don't know why. So those are the two apps that I use in iOS. I have recently, because Adobe had this amazing deal to get the entire Adobe suite. It's a lot of money, but it was like $200 off a year. And so now I'm learning Premiere and loving it. So for big, hardcore, more complex editing, After Effects, if you've been seeing my audio pieces at the end of my posts of recent days on the series from Bali, you'll see a sound wave, all that's created in After Effects. So hope that answers your question, Yasmin. Anonymous, another anonymous. A noticeable feature of some of your photos is a blurry hand or foreground in the frame. I assume this is to give dimension. Can you explain the idea? I don't know. I like layers of things. I'm looking at you here in a two-dimensional video screen. But in the foreground is my camera, and I see the bag here, and I see my phone here, and I see candles are over here, and I see stuff on my periphery, and behind me is a chair, and da 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 da. And if I'm looking out here, if a candle happens to be floating in on the frame over here, if that happens to be a hand coming in, I love all that stuff, and I like layers. I like flavor. It's like cooking, right? That's why a camera to me is a soup spoon. I want flavor, and if there, and I like things popping in and out, because remember, a camera. When you look through the camera, I'm looking as like horse blinders, right? Everything with the 35 went like this, and there's stuff on the left and right, and the top and the bottom. There's things going on behind me, in front of me, below me, on top of me. You can't encompass all of that unless you use a 360 camera. And then right now that technology is a little bit sort of Wonka vision. It's cool, but so I want to bring in all the pieces that you may not actually be able to see in the frame, but that are just there, and I just enjoy it. So there's no, I can't really explain it. I don't know if it needs to be explained. I don't mean to be rude, but it's unexplainable because it's just there, and it's fascinating, and it's interesting, and it's the flavor. Fernando, thanks for bringing thanks for bringing us this conversation. One of my favorite photographs. Thanks, John. The time is for the time and all explanations. I have no camera or mic in my system. Indeed, I am always trying to find new stuff about John and VII photography. Okay, it's very kind of you. I hope to see new conversations. Okay, I lived in Guinea-Bissau, an NGO manager, and I had the opportunity to photograph one of the amazing groups. Help the time. Okay, so I guess you don't have a question, Fernando, but I'm happy that you did all this beautiful stuff in Guinea-Bissau. I've never been to Guinea-Bissau, but it's beautiful. Justin Eid, John, where do you find your inspiration? What is next for you? Inspired by everybody. I'm inspired by, though I can't see you guys here, by all of you, and by doing this. I am photographing and filming things every day, whether it's pictures of my dog. You can follow Elfrida on her Instagram account of Elfrida the Great Dane. Still photographing windows a bit. I'm packing up the gallery. I'm actually selling it, the building's selling. So after this, I head over to the village down the road to keep packing everything up. I brought the gallery virtually online a couple of years ago. I'm just never in town to be there. But I find that to be really inspiring, finding stuff that makes me remember things and bursts my imagination of things to come. I read a lot. Been reading a lot of books on astronomy and quantum mechanics. Not that I'm a scientist by any means, but I'm intrigued by the notion of how we function in this magical space of quantum understanding and quantum seeing. I also I read novels, but I'm reading a lot again on quantum mechanics right now. But everything inspires me and everything excites me. I think I shared that before. Is just this sort of like silly giddiness of being intrigued by everything, whether it's light and you know how things are positioned on a table or in front of me. I'm just interested in everything. William Richardson, do you still use Holgas? Do you still use the Holgas of Island of the Spirits? I still have them. I'm about 6 or 7 of them. I haven't run film through them, but once I get this house sort of less brutal than it is in the state that it is in, I'm sure I'm going to be using them again. But yeah, it's an approach of painting, of recording, of cooking, of sewing that I still will do. But no, I haven't used them a lot since the Island of the Spirits. Ron, what the heck are you doing here? Ron Haviv, do you also, when working on political sensitive stories, upload to the cloud any images on a daily basis? And is the reward if you find your camera in the desert? Oh, Ron, you're too good. All right, so here's Drobo tech support for Ron. Ron and I have this thing about Drobo raids. Do I ever upload them into the cloud? You know, I never have, and I guess I should. I have taken memory cards out of the camera and hidden them in my luggage on politically sensitive things. I guess I should up my game like Ron does and put them to the cloud. Oh, I have done that in the past. Yes, I can't remember what it was for. I have, but probably not a lot of times. I can't remember what it was for. In the film days, I remember working along the China-Burma border. Oh my gosh, this town called Ruli, like the wild west of China. And this was in like the late 1990s, early 2000s. And I was, spooked because here you were at this, area where, drugs cross the border and it's a horrible trafficking of women situation. Anything goes of China. It's probably still a bit like that, but then it was really, the Wild West. And I would take my film and hide it in the bathroom, in the ceiling under a recessed, somehow like you go to department stores and they have, the shop at a shopping center and the ceiling, can lift. I would hide all my film in there. But no, I should do the cloud more often, but I have done it. And is the reward for my camera in the desert? There is. It's the like 500 photographs that were really, really interesting that are still on the card. Simon Vale, and coffee. I'll give you coffee and more Drobo advice, Ron. Simon Vale, if you were forced to bring only one lens, what would it be and why? The 35-1.4, because it's how the 28 is supposedly the millimeter of what our eyes see. Canon, for whatever reason, just doesn't make a brilliant 28. They don't make an L series 28, the whatever series. I don't even know what L means, but anyways, they call it L. It's got like a little red band thingy on it. But the non-L red band lens is just not zinky sharp. I think Nikon has a decent 28, but until Canon whips together an amazing 28, the 35-1.4, I'm completely content with it because it gives me a sense of how we see, and it makes you have to give more to it. It has to make you work to fill that frame. It's just a beautiful lens. Raphael, what's your opinion about the documental photographic production during the pandemic? What touched you the most? Is there something missing? And I would like to have your opinion and advice on my first publication at Geographic. Okay, Raphael, I have not seen your latest story in Nat Geo. Maybe we can do this separately or do it as a one-on-one thing. You can visit my website for how to do all of that. But what's your opinion about the documentary of the pandemic? I think it's been, absolutely heavy and giving and important. I was just read the New York Times every morning online. I just don't want to waste the paper. And, there's every day, there's like this slideshow of images around the world. And I was thinking today, ironically, of like how important this is. 50 years from now, 100 years from now, all of us will be dead and gone. But these will be, referenced and referenced and referenced when the next pandemic comes along, because we will have it. It's just how we are as a species on the environment of this planet. And I lived through SARS in Hong Kong. It's my third pandemic. SARS in Hong Kong, bird flu, H5N1 in Indonesia, and now COVID here in the United States. Important moments of our understanding. I think it's been done very, very well. I have not done almost anything about it. In the beginning, I really didn't want to become a conduit of the virus because I'd done these stories with SARS and bird flu, and many times I kept wondering, what am I doing here? Like, you can't see what's going to kill you. I'd rather cover war. You could, understand where the bullets are coming from. But with infectious disease, it's invisible. It wasn't like I was scared. The reason otherwise as well is where I live. I live in a very rural, not rural, but I live in Western Massachusetts in the Berkshires, and we had cases of it. But if I was in a city like New York or Boston or LA or Chicago or a bigger town, I definitely would have probably done more on COVID stories. I think, everyone's work, I don't want to single out anyone as being more or less than anything else. It's those who, of course, push the boundaries from the obvious. I was seeing today in the New York Times slideshow going, God, this is just so expected, so expected. How do you push it further? And some have done an amazing way of presenting the enormity in a way that really sort of makes us think even further. But again, I don't want to single out one person over another. James, I'm intrigued if even in this massively tech-driven world, do you still bring old forms of entertainment, logistics? Do you, example, bring notebooks? Yes. Journals, I do. And travels, read books. Yep, I read books, bring books. I mostly bring books on my iPhone and ebooks, just because I used to carry a lot of books with me, and it became heavy, or I couldn't bring as many books as I wanted to bring, and I read books on this thing nonstop. I don't have a fear or issue about technology. I love it all. I embrace it all. Also, as glass users who has lost their specs on trips, do you bring? Yes, I do bring an extra pair of glasses with me. Well, they're somewhere in the other room. They're scratched, so when these get scratched, I'll take the lenses out and put them in the other. My eyesight is not totally atrocious. So if I do lose them, I can get away with reading glasses to bumble my way through. If I did lose, I use the diopter in my camera. So when I look through the camera, I actually look over my glasses. I can't imagine looking through it. Anyways, so yeah, I do carry a pair set of glasses. Donna, do you also do research before going in the field? Yeah, make you do a shoot list, a photo list. How do you manage the time when you're in the process of warm greetings from Indonesia? Selamat malam. Yes, I do a tremendous amount of research before going on any story. I'm again working on a story of health issues around the world related to coal. So I have a book in the other room, a very boring academic book that I'm just slogging myself through to read, but need to read it soon because I do got to get on the road in the coming weeks. And a lot of academic research from scientists or doctor, medical research if it's a health story like this. Yeah, I love to read like anybody else, so that's not new or intriguing. And if I'm trying to present something like in your amazing country that I've had the privilege to live in, when I did the story on volcano spirituality for National Geographic, really there wasn't any information out there except Mount Merapi, Gunung Merapi. Quite a bit written about Merapi, maybe Gunung Agung in Bali. But to link together all 130 some active volcanoes. I didn't go to all of them, but I went to about 20 volcanoes across Indonesia. I had to do my own research and lace it together, speaking to mystics and scientists and what have you, because it never been looked at before. So a lot of it happens in the field. And there's no like list that I do. I don't sit here and go, I need to get this. And I don't need to get anything. I need to open myself up and allow things of amazingness to present themselves. I don't want anything. Expect nothing and be thankful for everything. We expect too much in life, and we expect too much in photography. We want this, we want that, you know, a list of everything. I got to get that. I mean, have a bit of a roadmap, sure. I don't even know what a roadmap is. I still get lost when I drive around, and I like getting lost. But have knowledge that gives you some basis to hold on to, and allow yourself to be like falling into the magic and the beauty and the heaviness and the sadness of the story, so that the serendipity and the love can be presented. Because otherwise you're like going through a list. You know, oh, what have I got to do today? You know, oh, I got to check. Like, blah. I don't even do that for groceries. I go to the grocery store the other day. I'm like, la di da, la di da, la di da, oh, da, da, da. You know, because I don't want a list. Other people work differently, so I respect that. If you want to have a list, you can list up all you want. Have an idea, have maybe some, like, you know, couple of things that you want to do, and ask a lot of questions, be really, really curious. And I find that that's when you really go into the majesty of the topic that you're working on, with knowledge, with the research, but take the wheels off the bicycle and fly. Anonymous, what RAID system do you use? A Drobo. I'm just going to go quick with some of these because we're running long, and Gianna, I'm sure, has other things to do. Do you use, Thomas, do you use filters like UV? Yes. I have one filter here that has this really, really cool, all my lenses have just UV filters on it, but this one on my 50, see the pinky? No, that's not the light, although my light is pinky. Here, see the pinky pink? Well, the light on the ceiling's red. Anyway, I don't have any white light bulbs in here, but it is really, really like a funny UV. I use B+Ws, and I don't know what this one is called. Oh, here it is. It's a UV IR, infrared, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, just use UV mostly just so that I don't break the lens or touch it, because I'm always gooking my fingers on it. That's it. Mike, since NetGeo requires photographers to send raw files, do you have control over the final edit? Yes, we have a fairly decent control over the final edit. It's the last magazine I'm aware of that you can literally sit in and you're a part of the editing process. You win some choices, you lose some choices. Usually when you lose, it's because your ego is in the way and you're acting too, you know, connected to it. You are too connected to the story. And when you're working with a great editor, or really somebody that you respect, it could be a very close friend of yours, it could be your partner, it could be an editor that guides you to remove yourself from the visual dialogue because we're too connected to it, in order to tell the story in the best way for the humanity around us to embrace and read and to see. But yes, we have a significant control over it. Mostly it comes down to the strongest images, and over the bloodletting of the editing, you can kind of tell, you know, what is firm, and then it's about letting go. And that's the hardest part. And black and white or color, such as deciding, well, Nat Geo is almost 98% of the time color. I like color. I do black and white. I've done tons of black and white in the past, but I'm very much into the moment of indisputable reality, and in many ways that connects to how we see, the vast majority of us see. So, but if you do it in black, if you see it in black and white in Nat Geo, which I can't remember when I saw a black and white story, maybe Nick Nichols' piece on tigers of the Serengeti. For whatever reason, you had to talk to him, but he maybe convinced the magazine that that's what he wanted to do. Pierre Lalette from Dallas, Texas. Here has been a real pleasure to get to know you and your process through this session. Oh, thank you. And Gianna's the best in putting this on. Would you mind sharing with us what you are reading book-wise? Hawkins' book on answers to the, no, I just finished answers to the, it's upstairs. It's a book on understanding quantum mechanics by Hawkins, but it's an illustrated version of it. It's kind of big. It's a little hard to read in bed because it's like heavy. But that's what I'm reading right now, is more on quantum mechanics by Hawkins. Gene, John, you are funny naturally. Do people of your travels buy into your sense of humor? Well, I give it away for free, so I don't have to. I hope they don't have to pay for it. In fact, I want to thank them for just putting up with me. Whoopsie, I'm trying to get up a little higher by sitting on my legs. I don't know. I try to get along with everyone, and I'm just thankful to be here. So you're very kind, but not that funny. Dimitris, John from Greece, has your kit developed from big to just 2 cameras and 3 lenses? No, it hasn't. It's pretty much always been petite like this. Again, I have other things in the background, in the basement, in storage, but not what I carry with me. Sometimes if I have to do a lot of video, yeah, I have like sliders, special video microphones, panorama turning heads, but it really comes down to what is that specific thing that I'm doing. And I'm not gonna, doesn't mean I'm not gonna do it if I'm in a city or a busy area, but I usually bring that kit along if I'm in if there's gonna be a lot of landscapes, because I can't stand myself doing landscapes and just like, here I am, look at this building or look at this house or look at this mountain. I want to give more to it, and not that the kit makes it better, but it allows me to, it's sort of like, having different cooking utensils in the kitchen. It's still what you give in to the food that you're cooking, but a certain blender or a certain way of chopping may enhance the flavor of the food that you're cooking, but I don't have to cook like that or photograph with that kit all the time. Anonymous, you have probably seen a lot of pain and suffering around the world. How do you manage to keep this curiosity and fascination going? Has your psyche suffered in ways that impact your outlook on life or discourage you? Very good question. Asked that quite a few times. I try not to dwell on everything that I've seen. I don't forget about it. I think about it all too much. It really affects me when I go in the archive looking for something and go, you can't remember everything. It's an overwhelming sensation of it all, that I'm sure I'm carrying every acronym that ever existed, and I try to carry the acronyms of every syndrome that I probably have, and try to carry it lightly in order to not have it destroy me. And so I try to look for love and kindness in everything possible, to make a balance to all of the horror and unpleasantness that we do to ourselves as people. But as I've shared in a few of my Ask Me Anything episodes. Again, you can go to my Instagram feed, and on my IGTV channel, you can, there's 7 of them. I can't remember which episode I touch upon. There's a few episodes on it that I talk about it, not this specific question, but I try to find light in darkness, not just low light photography, but I try to find hope and love and light in the most heaviest of situations, and while still trying to present the enormity and the heaviness of that situation, not sugarcoating it or anything. I don't really have and how do I keep a rosy, does it impact my outlook in life? What affects me the most, and it doesn't empower me in a sense that makes me feel good, but I was just messaging a friend of mine in Argentina, messaging on how we have, and I say this quite a bit, I guess they're repetitions, and I'm not trying to be, but I want to give this to you and to give this to all of us. We all have a lot of work to do. We have a tremendous amount of work to do. And that's what drives me, and does not discourage me. It enrages me to get up every day and do something about it. Because we can make change. We can change our human weaknesses. But I need you to join me, Anonymous, and Edmonds, whose next question I hope to answer, and Jeremy, who's afterwards. I need you to join me. I want to join you, that we collectively raise awareness and turn the wheel of change. So am I discouraged? No, I just have a lot of work to do. Edmund, sorry to bother you on this, but do you have any suggestions of someone who's lost their faith in the profession and who's recently afraid of photography? Edmund, I hope what I just shared there about that we have a lot of work to do. Edmund, I need you to join me. You've got a lot of work to do, brother. Don't lose your faith, and you can lose your faith in whatever you want to lose your faith in. I kind of lose my faith on electricity. What happens when Armageddon happens and this light bulb is not going to just whimsically turn on whenever I want it, right? I'm being extreme here. But who is recently afraid to photograph. Edmund, I can't go, that seems like we need to go into a very love therapy session together, where I can, give you fire and lift and energy. Afraid, I think that's something deep inside, and I hope that you can overcome being afraid, because there's really nothing to be afraid of. The losing of the faith is, I think, brought upon, I don't know, right, until we have a discussion one-on-one. But a lot of I was in a clubhouse recently room with a group of Italian photographers, and the questions that were being asked to me, I just popped in, and it became sort of an hour and a half Q&A, and it was really beautiful, but it was a little heavy in the beginning, of everybody talking like, well, what do you think about, technology today, of what it's not like it used to be, and how it's affecting this, and how the raid on the Capitol in the United States was, mostly filmed by people with their, cameras that make phone calls, and not by professional photographers, and how that's and I'm like, man, I've heard this like nonsense over and over, like the doom and death and gloom of photojournalism. It's never been more alive and powerful and needing and giving and purposeful than ever. It's just different than it was before. It's different than a year ago. It's different than 6 months ago. It's going to be different in 6 months from now, and it's going to be unrecognizable in a year from now. And it's adaptation, it's Darwinism, it's the beauty of curiosity and the excitement of doing and the need to do. And Edmund, the reason why we need you to tell stories, so that you and I and all of us can turn this wheel of consciousness for everyone. So if I can give you anything on how to lift yourself into this feeling of being afraid, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. We need you. We're here for you. Jeremy, I'm Jeremy from France. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. About language, do you learn a bit or a lot of languages in the places that you do, or do you rely on translators? Do you think that we may lose something if one does not understand the local language? Of course, Jeremy. I can say thank you in about 20 languages. I can probably barely, not fully proficiently speak English, but I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. I think so. I can speak a little bit of French. I can speak a bit of Italian, a bit of Indonesian, but for whatever reason, this language called English is my main conduit to communicate. I work with translators. It's the best I can do. Am I missing something? Of course I am. I'm not going to be delusional and go, oh, know it all and I don't need to speak the language or anything like that. Would it be helpful to speak all the languages? It probably would be, of course. I think the gift that we all have as visual storytellers is sight. And I try to give myself to a different energy or a different frequency of feeling and then seeing. Talk a lot about that also in the IGTV series of Ask Me Anything, about feeling and then seeing. Hearing would be, an added layer too. But I find that when I work in the United States, or if I'm in the UK, I can't say I've ever photographed in the UK. In India, although Hindi is the predominant main language, but I hear a lot of English signs. I'm just trying to look for some background references. Even if the language is not predominantly one that I understand, even when I'm in this country where I live, I'm not always listening. I mean, I'm listening, of course, but I'm wanting to feel and then see. And with doing research is another question that was brought up to me, a lot of background research, so I kind of know what I'm dealing with. Am I missing something though, because I don't speak the Longo language? Of course, I'm not going to lie. Can somebody, go into layers in French culture more than I can if I'm working in France? Absolutely, I'm sure. But I don't see how you, and this came up in this Clubhouse discussion, I think it's really incredible that magazines like National Geographic and really important and other publications are using more local indigenous photographers photographing in their own backyard, mostly so that no longer is this predominantly white male group of people that do this, which has been irritating since the time began. But and the beauty of it is it's giving more opportunity to photographers all around the world. And it does allow and give to a deeper expression of those photographers in their backyards to present narratives that you or I wouldn't necessarily 100% fall into the frequency of. That shared, it doesn't diminish the ability for you, Jeremy, or me, or anybody here to work in our backyard or go to the alleged ends of the earth, because there is no ends of the earth, it's just all our one planet. And I'll give an example where I'll give you many. But one of our colleagues at VII, Seamus Murphy, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, came to the United States and traveled across the US for like a year or something like that, and did a story about what was America. And that photographer, Seamus's take was so different than anything I'd ever seen, because that individual came here from a totally different perspective of feeling and seeing. And I did a story on to a question, I forget now the woman's name, who from Indonesia, when I did the story of volcano spirituality that ran in National Geographic, I remember after it became published, and I have a lot of there's amazing friends, photographers in Indonesia, so talented, so talented, and I remember them going, "Why didn't we think of that?" Right? And we sometimes forget at the ground beneath our feet, there's another layer of it, or sort of like a lateral movement of everything seems kind of normal, that we don't see everything all the time. We'll see other things, but and it doesn't require, an outside perspective exactly, but it does help, or it brings about another level or another layer, not greater or less, of a narrative strain, like Seamus's essay on America, or I don't want to talk about myself, but the volcano gods, that to find something that you never realized and turn it upside of its head. And that oftentimes I would love to see the work from let's say a Bangladeshi photographer, coming to the United States and doing a story here, or a Thai photographer going to Zimbabwe and doing a story, because everyone sees the world differently. Can they see it better or differently or whatever than a local photographer? No, everybody's going to see it in their own way. And can a locally based visual storyteller who speaks the language go in deeper in certain layers of it? I would probably think so. But I think everyone can go into a space and dimension kindly, with humility, without a colonial ruler mentality, and go in and see the curiosity and the beauty of every culture in kindness and humility and balance. So I'm taking your question, Jemmy, and sort of elastically stretching it. No, I will never be able, unless I learn French, to go deep enough and I've worked in France, to go as deep as you can. Is it a hindrance? I would love to speak more French than bumbling around, to the best of my ability, ordering baguettes or, simple greetings in the beginning. We'd have to all learn about 7,000 languages on our planet. And we're losing a language every 2 weeks, which is another tragic discussion. But let's find our commonalities and find how we love each other, and give curiosity to each other, and support photographers in their own backyard, and also support them to be able to go somewhere in a way to reinterpret a world around us that we may not be seeing. And that's what Seamus did to me, and many photographers, female, male, young and old, present by being curious. So I guess that was the last question. I really would love to do this in human physical form, and because all I'm seeing is myself and this mystical dude with wings and the VII Academy logo. I know Frida's sleeping over there, and it's kind of lonely, but thank you for being here. And Jeremy, thank you. I hope that did answer your, there's no answer to any question. So what's in my bag? Ask me anything, or Jeremy's question, or any one of your questions. There is no answer. There's just the beauty of curiosity and wonderment and kindness and balance, and the simple thing called love and universality. And then in that act of giving, the universe very much opens, life opens, existence opens, photography opens, the visual world pours upon you. And it's then in turn, it came because of what you gave. And then it also is what you give back. And tread lightly, tread with kindness, equality, balance, And it's just been a beautiful day here with you. And thank you for being here.